Hey guys, Dov here. Today I've got a little bit of a different character highlight for you. I'm talking about why Vampire Lords are the best in the game and why lore of vampires is clearly the best lore of magic in the game. Today we're here. Belkon's playing the Vampire Counts, Aerocrastic's playing Lizardmen. I should point out this is the factions that these two typically do not play, both, but here we go. So for the builds, we've got a Lamian here, Lamian Vampire Lord, Terror Goose, some Fell Bats, two Black Knights, a Necromancer here on foot, with just the Forbidden Rod, zombies, Graveguard with great weapons. As for the Lizardmen, you can see up front, we've got a High Slon, a couple of Saurus, Temple Guards, two Solar Engines, more Temple Guards, Skink Javs, and plenty of Pterodons, of course. And yeah, so back to the Vampire Lords. So obviously, lore of vampires is insanely strong. For those of you guys who don't know, it objectively is by far the best lore in the game because it has not only the best heal, Invocation of Nehek, which is the most magic efficient heal both for groups and for single target, whether you single or overcast it. You've also got summons, of course, and not only that, one of the best summons in the game, if not the best, as it summons a unit that causes fear, and there's only 4 winds of magic with 7 charges, so all of that combined, and that's not even to talk about the other spells like Wind of Death, which is one of the fastest firing wind spells in terms of animation, and also does technically the most damage if you overcast it. Curse of Years is arguably the least useful spell in the lore, as it's kind of an expensive debuff, but Dance Macabre is one of the more cost-effective melee attack buffs in the game, especially that you can overcast it for a very good AoE and hit a bunch of units that otherwise wouldn't have the greatest melee attack. Keep in mind as well that the Lamian has a mixed spell lore specifically. She's got Enfeebling Foe and Penumbral Pendulum as well, so quite a lot going on there. As far as the build, the Mortis Engine up in the front line is obviously a huge danger for Aerocrastic. He wants to try and get rid of it as quickly as possible. Right now, though, focusing very aggressively on the Terror Goose, as it's a threat to the Solar Engines. A nice Banishment going to be dropped here, but the Skink Javs, man, look at that. You see how quickly that Mortis Engine just got wrecked by those Skink Javs, unloading their volleys, point-blank range there. Yeah, absolutely brutal. And now the Solar Engines are going to switch targeting onto the Claw of Nagash. As a Regiment of Renown, the Claw of Nagash does have magic resistance, but as it's weak to fire baseline, it'll kind of cancel itself out and just do the full normal damage of the Solar Engine. Nice hit there. Banishment going to be thrown here, and I do believe it hits both of these units. Yes, it does hit both of those units there, so it will deal the damage to both, which is very good for Aerocrastic here. But, of course, Vampire Lord, this Lamian specifically has a Scepter of Stability that, let's see, can I, is it a one-time use, I believe? No, you can use it as many times as you want. 44% magic resistance, which against Lizardmen here, not only against the Solar Engines, of course, but Tempest as well. Using that from the Lamian Vampire Lord, tossing it around, it's going to be very powerful, not to mention her own great abilities like this Lightning Reflexes here for speed and damage resistance, and of course the Seduction, great melee attack AoE debuff. Again, help her forces tank out a little bit more damage. As it is right now, though, Lizardmen are in a pretty good position with the Mortis Engine down. That is a huge key in how Falcon can kill the Temple Guards. The Grave Guards with great weapons will do some damage over time, especially with sustained healing, but the Mortis Engine's really the primary way of dealing with those elite infantry. The Goose is still technically here, as is the Lamian herself up on her dragon. Undead Khaleesi blows herself up slightly with that miscast there, but it does get a nice Invocation of Nehek, hits these Graveguard with great weapons. And Invocation of Nehek, not only is it the most efficient in terms of like heals per magic, what you spend, but it also resurrects unit models, which is like unique, right? It's much, much better than Earthblood or Regrowth. Any of those other, Lore of Life or Lore of High Magic healing spells do not regenerate unit models. So automatically that makes Invocation of Nehek better than other heals, arguably. especially given that it's so efficient in terms of the actual HP per magic you get from it. Now in this very desperate late game engagement, things are looking a little bit dicey for the vampires. Terragoose is holding, barely. Same with the Lamian. Another banishment comes in, does a lot of damage, but the Black Knights and Graveguard actually slowly working down these Temple Guard. Only 39 melee defense on them. So with the bonus versus infantry, the Graveguards have a pretty decent chance to hit. Likewise, the Slann getting terrified is a huge, huge issue. If that Slann gets fully killed there, that will spell the doom for Lizardmen. Absolutely. Terragoose, Crown of Command makes it unbreakable, but still taking crumbling damage? That doesn't seem right. Oh, gets blasted point blank as it dives there for that solar engine. Absolutely brutal. Poor Goose. He didn't deserve that. It's not his fault he got raised from the dead by a nasty vampire. He goes down, though. And the solar engine hits his body, just for good measure there. Just that angry and spiteful. Now come the drop rocks, going to do some good damage. Those zombies, and again, the Graveguard with great weapons still fighting, but the vampires pulling ahead pretty convincingly. Lamian coming down, woo, right over her head. He now gets rear charged by the Pterodons, and it's a little bit of a dicey situation for her to get charged and attacked by the Solar Engine in melee. Solar Engine and everything else does get the seductions. They don't have much melee attack at all, won't be making the most consistent contact, but Aerocrastics maneuvering this other Solar Engine over here to try and get into a position to fire. Does get a hit there, but the Lightning Reflex is able to negate some of that damage with the damage resistance, obviously. Who would have thought? And now with the zombies and other infantry support here, the Graveguards, Blood Dragon will turn and fight. That being said, the infantry support's getting pretty thin. They are crumbling, but of course, crumbling being completely balanced means that these units will fight at full effectiveness even while they're technically routing. And as a result, the leadership of the Lizardmen might start to give out here, especially as these two Solar Engines get routed. The Bastiladons don't have the greatest leadership in the world to begin with, and this big, scary vampire lady is big and scary. And the Graveguards refusing to die here, doing enough to the Temple Guard to try and finish him off late game. Oh man, point blank blasting, friendly firing. That poor Pterodon rider. And that's basically the end for the Lizardmen. The Temple Guard get terrified there. And look at this, Scepter of Stability, boom, does hardly any damage there. Saw it directly in action, but trust me when I say Falcon was throwing that around basically as soon as it came off cooldown every single time. And I really like the Lamian. Lamian has one of the best ability sets in the game besides Lore of Vampires. Like, even if she just had, like, just Lore of Shadows, she'd still be one of the strongest lords in the game from her ability set. Same thing with the Blood Dragon, right? Like, Helm of Discord makes the male Glade Lord as a non-caster lord pretty viable and actually really strong in certain circumstances, right? Yeah, so that's add the best Lore of Magic. Like, clearly, not even close, the best Lore of Magic in the game. On top of that, and suddenly, you see why when I make Lord tier lists, and I do plan to make a couple of Lord videos, and I say a couple because one of them will be top 5 Vampire Lords, one of them will be top 5 non-Vampire Lords, because that's just how much power level difference there is between the two. If I were to do what I actually thought were the top 5 lords in the game, probably 4, maybe 5 of them would all be vampires, like, legitimately. So, yeah. Vampire lords, very, very clearly the best lords in the game. Lamian showing her power here, and of course, you guys have seen plenty of Blood Dragon gameplay over the years, or however long they've been out. Same thing with the Lamian, other vampire lords too, even before then. Manfred has long been the bane of many, many players since game 1. So there's just, there's a lot going on there. So, just to kind of finish things up, great job by both players, obviously. You saw there was a lot of kills on the Slann there and some other good stuff. Both very, very good players, and, yeah. Oops, that's not right. I meant to go here. Vampire counts. Okay, so Lore of Vampires in and of itself, like I already kind of talked about all of these spells. Lore attributes also great as well, because especially for vampire counts where you have a lot of passive healing. If there's units that are like that have all of their models healed from like a corpse cart or other passive healing sources, this will then like bump up a few extra unit models every time you cast a spell. And of course you have tons of passive healing to help with that likewise. But even just the spells themselves, and the fact that, I mean, like, Vlad is arguably the tankiest Footlord in the game. Manfred is one of the top tier casters, as is the Neckarch, and you kind of interchange them in different situations. Like, even if you were to put even just this basic Vampire Lord, who is clearly worse than all of the other Bloodlines Lords, you to put him on another roster, he automatically becomes their best Lord, or one of their best Lords, assuming that their units benefit from his spells. Even just having this very basic kind of boring kit makes him very good, and the Hunger also, let's not forget about that. Most, if not all, vampire characters have, I guess the Necromancers don't, but like Vampire Coast as well. And this is why Harkon does not have lore of vampires, but he is insanely powerful, and as a vampire lord, that just seems appropriate. Noctilus is definitely the one of these guys that you would say is the most OP. The fact that the Coast gets access to the even better version of the zombie summon, where you can actually summon a ranged unit for no extra cost, I believe. Go ahead and have a look at the spell browser here. Here we go, the Drowned Dead, yeah. It doesn't actually show on the overcast here, but you overcast it, summons a unit of pistol mobs, and it's not any more expensive, right? So that is just super, super powerful for a number of different reasons, but this guy and both the Polearm and Pistol Admiral that have lore of vampires we'll see pretty frequently as well. Yeah, and they're all quite good. Again, you move them to another roster, and they probably become one of the best lords on that roster. So that's kind of the end of my essay today. Hopefully you guys enjoy. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.